to this morning. Oh, I feel like we say that every time we talk with Austin and Brent, but it is always true. What's going on, Austin? How are you?
Hey, Oss.
I'm doing great, guys. How are you doing?
We're good. I'm going to warn you on the front end. Your Harry Houdini act probably not going to work today, considering it's Savon Hider day and there's rumblings about Tristan Keys and Adidas. We got a QB1 that's been announced that we'll start with, but Austin, a lot of recruiting nuggets for us to dive into this morning.
Hey, what's our out time for the segment?
39.
Okay, well, I can Josh Heupel and filibuster for the next 17 minutes.
I should have given you a different number.
On Joey Aguilar.
That is absolutely right. The big news coming, of course, over the weekend, first reported by our friends at VolQuest's, of course, Austin. What did Joey Aguilar show that made him the guy? What do you think ultimately made the difference, and how much did the final scrimmage over the weekend really put him over the edge?
The last scrimmage, I think, really put him over the edge because he was able to functionally run the offense at the pace they want. And, Hubs and I were standing outside the complex, and there was multiple players that walked outside the complex, either talking to each other or talking on the phone to people, talking about how impressive Joey was in the scrimmage and just how, the pacing of the offense was crisp. He performed really, really well. He threw the ball extremely well, and it was already heading that way anyways, but I think that just solidified it with how he performed, last Friday in the final scrimmage, especially when you factor in that, he wasn't playing with his full complement of weapons, and none of the quarterbacks were, and he was able to perform at a high level.
So, Austin, how far is the gap in your mind between Joey and Jake? We had a commenter yesterday say, what if Jake is this year's Hendon Hooker, and just because he didn't win the battle, could he take it back over if Joey struggles? How much of a leash do you think Joey gets based on how far ahead he is from Jake Merklinger and even the freshman George McIntyre?
In my opinion, Will, he's going to get a decent leash here. I don't think that this is something where, if he's sitting there and they've got 3 points late in the first half, Josh Heupel knee-jerks it and says, we got to get somebody else in there. I think he'll, he will give him ample time to run things. And, if we're talking about, the number of games that the offense sputters, then I think you would look at a quarterback change. But I think he'll have a decent amount of rope going into the season with Joey Aguilar.
So not like Hugh Freeze is saying in Auburn is what you're telling me.
Well, I mean, 3 quarterbacks, 3 different play callers. I mean, it's, I joked on our podcast today on VolQuest's that, I think this was all Hugh's wife's idea to get out of Auburn. Let's put something crazy out there and they'll fire us and we'll just take the buyout.
I said that to Will earlier. I was like, hey, just say you want the buyout.
I mean, that's a better way than using burner phones, because I think Hugh's wife would actually be in on this plan to get out. Spot the lie there. Anyway, go ahead.
Austin ain't touching that one.
I mean, listen, I just that just seems like a divorce that's going to happen, right? Like, it just does not feel like it's going to last.
I agree.
Long term. Now, again, there's been a few instances over the years where it looked like somebody was headed for a divorce, and then a player comes in and plays really, really well and kind of saves that coach's bacon, and maybe that happens in this instance, but he's going to have to perform well this year, and the team's going to have to perform well if Hugh Freeze will be back at Auburn, in my opinion, in 2026.
Billy Napier all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Austin, when you end up picking a quarterback that's in a competition like this, what has mattered more? Is it the decisiveness and playmaking? Is it the down the field, or is it the teammates that just like the guy and the calmness that he have in the pocket? How do you think Coach Heupel and his staff got to picking the individual, you know what I'm saying, when it comes down to it? Because Will brought up, Hendon versus Joe. I think the team saw another part of it, or Coach finally realized that Hendon was the better pick. So how do you get here to this point to name Joey Aguilar?
Well, I think it's a combination of everything you just mentioned. I don't think it's just one thing. I don't think it's just the team, although I do think the team really likes Joey a lot. And I think that's kind of where you got to in this process was, they loved how he kind of he came in, he put his head down, he went to work. I mean, he's not really done many interviews. He's just kind of been, learning the team, the coaches, the program, the city, everything, and just enjoying being here. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is he just kind of went about things the right way and went about things as a mature kid. He's 24. I mean, listen, I'm not, the only comparison I can make to Hendon is the fact they're both older. I mean, Hendon was 24. He is 24. And, I think that helps him because he just looks at things. He's been through things. He's played a lot of football. And you're just at a different point in life when you're 24 years old versus when you're 20 years old or 19 years old or 18 years old. So I think that has helped him throughout the competition. But it's the team. It's how he's picked things up, how he's improved. Yes, he makes a mistake or two. He learns from it. He doesn't make the same mistake to this point. And, again, you're not going to know for sure on the quarterback and or the receivers until you get out there and you play. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the unknown about this team. That's why this team's ranked where they're ranked. That's why this team is, kind of thought of as an afterthought to a degree to by a lot of people, by a lot of national media people, because they look at the production they lost last year on both sides of the ball, whether it's James Pierce on defense, first-round pick, Omar Norman Lott, same thing, high draft pick in day two, or on offense, the SEC Offensive Player of the Year and Dylan Sampson. Nico's gone after spring. It's easy to kind of just cherry pick it and go, Tennessee's not going to be very good. And they might not be, but you don't know because there are certain positions that I think, arguably they are more talented at, but they're not proven at all. And I've only got to make it 10 more minutes as I filibuster here to get out of this segment without having to talk about recruiting.
I feel like I got some good stuff to ask you aside from recruiting. But, Austin, you say all that is – it sounds to me like the older days, like from the early 2000s before the portal was a thing, when you had new starters and you had a new quarterback and you had new issues that had to be solved throughout the course of the year. I think the transfer portal has skewed people's perspective on the continuation of being good. I think this is okay to live a life like this because it's a new experience for Coach Heupel to figure out a new quarterback, new running back, and also who's going to be starting on the new offensive line for this team. I don't think this is a bad thing, Austin. It's just growth as a coach, I feel like.
Well, I think for me, how many times over the last 2-3 years have people clamored for the young guys to play? Why is Mike Matthews not playing?
Right.
Why is this guy not playing? Why is that guy not playing? Well, they're going to play him this year because they changed philosophies back in December. They didn't go to the portal a lot. They went for a few guys, but, they didn't live in the portal. You could argue they probably should have went to the portal for receivers because they don't have very many of them. But, you're going to shove a lot of these young kids to the field, whether it's true freshmen like Rodarius Jackson, Travis Smith, and those type players, DeJuan Morris, or it's redshirt freshmen who, redshirted a year ago or played, the minimum of 4 or no more, and they're basically shoving them in the deep end and saying swim. I like that because there is talent on the football team. It's younger talent. It's inexperienced talent, but it's still talent. And I think sometimes coaches at the college level can bury younger talent going to the portal for a guy who, may have done a little bit more than the younger kid did just because he was at a different school with, different opportunities. But he's not as talented as that kid, but all of a sudden, he's played, so he's going to play over the kid that's got talent. That happens. And I think the change of philosophy could prove to be a big one for this program this fall.
Austin Price of VolQuest's and On 3, our guest this morning on Ramon and Will. Austin, do you think this offensive line can be better as a unit than it was last year? Is that a fair take? Because I feel like Lance Hurd's health this offseason is a big storyline at left tackle that maybe we have not, as a show and as a media talking about Tennessee, have discussed enough.
I think that the offensive line is a better unit overall. They're a little bit deeper, and I think they're more talented than they were a year ago. Lance Hurd really just, I think, kind of kicked it in gear this offseason. He's done a fantastic job of losing the proper weight. He's still big, but he's not too big. He's really dialed in. He's focused. The coaches are saying all the right things about Lance Hurd. right now based off of his off-season production, his off-season work. And he's the leader of this offensive line. And then you look, what's going to be beside of him? Whoa is what they call him on the team. But Wendell Moy is super athletic, really freaky for a kid his size, and build, and to have the amount of twitch he has at the guard spot. Sam Pendleton, Kevin Pendleton's the offensive line QC. Sam Pendleton will be your center. Jesse Perry from Middle Tennessee Christian School, redshirt freshman, will be your right guard, in my opinion, and then David Sanders at right tackle. And so, Lance Hurd's got to be the leader of this team. He's been here, he's done that, and it feels like he grew up a lot this offseason. What I think is a contract year for him, because if he plays well and plays like he's capable, could be off to the NFL at the end of the year with a good year.
I love the long pauses here, Austin. You're doing a real good job, man. Keep it up with just filibustering here. All
right, the time has come.
Yeah.
It is commitment day for Savon Hider, the number one running back in the country.
It's a big day. We're going to Franklin, Tennessee tonight.
That's right.
We got that. We got the big orange. We got the big orange night down there at the Franklin Theater, and you're going to MC it. Brent Hubbs and Grant Ramey and myself will be there, and it's gonna be fun times. Where are you taking me out to eat afterwards?
We got a lot of options down there in Franklin. That is why it's a big night, not because of Savon Hider's commitment, Austin. That's nothing to do with that.
There's a place in Franklin that's got a great pork chop.
All right, you stop helping him filibuster, all right? Savon Hider's going to commit here in a couple of hours.
We have 6 minutes.
Austin Price, what is your feeling on Hider? I know this has been an old school recruitment where not a lot of interviews have been done since, as Brent said with us Friday, Matt Ray talked with him last October. What are the tea leaves saying about Savon Hider today?
Yeah, I mean, the tea leaves would tell you that it's probably going to be Michigan. I'm yet to totally close the door on Tennessee because he and the family have continued to talk to Tennessee over the last few days. But like you start to look at things like, Michigan, E.J. Holland, who works for our Michigan side, he's going to be there. Now, regionally, he's a little more conducive to going than we are because he doesn't live in Michigan. He lives out of Michigan, and so he can get to Virginia a little bit easier because he lives closer. But he'll be there, and he seems like he's probably got a little better feel for this recruitment than I do because, Savon does not talk. He certainly doesn't talk to me or Matt or anybody else that covers Tennessee. So, again, I just going off the tea leaves of that, it reads Michigan to me. But, again, he has continued to have a lot of dialogue with Tennessee the last 48 hours or so. And with that said, you'd have to think that, Tennessee's at least got a puncher's chance going into the day. For a kid who, wanted to have his moment, it seems very off-brand to do some of the things that have happened over the last 72 hours when you factor in that, the fans have kind of figured out he follows a lot of Michigan people on his Instagram, not as many Tennessee people, and little things like that. We'll see. Again, he'll come up here in a couple hours. He announces around 11:15, 11:30 Eastern time on his Instagram, and we'll see does he follow through with kind of everybody's long thought to be a leader of Michigan, or does Tennessee pull a surprise on this Tuesday morning?
So, Austin, from a very old school recruitment to, with all due respect, a pretty new school recruitment with Tristan Keys, with a lot of photo shoots and an early commitment and a lot of talking, and nothing wrong with that. That's 2025 in recruitment. How much has the Adidas deal moved the needle for Tristan Keys, who's got an NIL deal with Adidas, and now Tennessee's Adidas? Has that helped maybe Tennessee make up some ground on LSU? Where are you at and some of the new rumors and developments with Tristan Keys in Tennessee?
As I said last night in our Monday night chat, I don't think it hurts, but at the same time, I don't think it's a make or break situation because most of these deals that Adidas does with these high school kids are really through their high school career. And then, if they end up going to an Adidas school, there's obviously opportunities there to continue it on, but they don't have to. And so, again, I don't think it hurts. I've long said I did not feel like he was going to end up at LSU. And I've long said Tennessee seems to have the best relationships with him long term. So, 2 and 2 is 4 for me that I like Tennessee's chances in the long game. The question is when does he do anything? And, Tristan may do a little bit of talking behind the scenes. He don't do a lot of talking as far as interviews, though.
Right.
And so, that's something that I think everybody's kind of got their eyes on is what does he do? I would tell you if he's going to do anything anytime soon, it would probably be before his season starts, which is, I think, next Friday, not this Friday, next Friday. And after that, then I think you're looking at a lot of visits this fall and probably visits this fall no matter what happens, no matter who if he let's say he decided to pick Texas A&M or Tennessee before next week, I think he's going to take visits to all these schools this fall and go through the process. So a long way to go in this one, regardless of how it goes down, whether he stays committed to LSU, doesn't stay committed to LSU over the next couple of weeks. I think this one is one that'll go all the way till December.
Man, we're joined by Austin Price of VolQuest's and on 3. Austin, I have to get you away from recruiting real quick and take you straight over to Danny White's lane, okay? There was just an email sent out that there's going to be a 4% increase in total cost of tickets. On top of that, a 10% talent fee added to the cost of the contribution and ticket, while also a city entertainment tax at 13.75% on the cost of tickets. What are Vol fans supposed to do with people that want to go consume this? Why? I guess I would ask is the other part of this.
Why go up in price?
Yeah.
Because that's what happens with everything, right? I mean, my Peter Millar shirts don't cost the same as they did 10 years ago. Listen, as long as there's a demand, as long as there's a full stadium.
Yep.
I mean, I think you're always going to see the tickets, have a trend up, and it just kind of the price of doing business. It's a arms race for money. It's just like Tennessee going to Adidas. Like it's about the dollar because you've got to have money to be able to fund the NIL part of all this until there's collective bargaining, Ramon.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have these same type of decisions made across the country. It's not just a Tennessee thing. It's, Ohio State and several others that are going to raise ticket prices by 4%, 5%, 2%, whatever. They're going to have talent fees. They're going to make decisions on the apparel based off of who gives them the best financial deal to be able to get their kids more money, to get better players, to get better rosters, to have championship-level teams. And so I think for Danny White, it's not that he's trying to stick it to anybody. I know everybody just goes that way. I think it's just more of like, how can we functionally continue to compete at the level we want to compete at and be the, quote, everything school in this era and do it the most cost-effective way. And I think that this is the way he feels like it has to go down. Because obviously they are doing revamps to Neyland Stadium and revamps to the arena and revamps to baseball. And then you're trying to also get, the players on your roster good NIL money to keep them on your roster or to bring them in as recruits. So I think it's just one of those things where this goes on everywhere, but because you're sitting here looking at it from a Tennessee fan perspective, like, I couldn't tell you if Alabama's ticket prices went down, went up, stayed the same. Same thing with Georgia or anybody else because I'm not in that arena. We all see what Tennessee does and how it works here because it's in our face every day. If I lived in Idaho, I wouldn't know what is happening here. Right? So, I mean, what is happening at these schools? I've saw similar complaints about Ohio State raising ticket prices and so on and so forth. So I think for Tennessee, it's just about trying to figure out the best way to functionally run the athletic department in a way that, the players benefit from this era where they make money and you can still have quality rosters that can compete for championships on the field or on the court.
He is Austin Price of VolQuest's and on 3. You can join him, Brent Hubbs, Grant Ramey, and myself tonight. Williamson County UT Alumni Chapter, Franklin Theater. Tickets, I'll tweet out the link here in a minute. Going to be a fun event. Austin, I will see you tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Austin.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Ramon, be there. Make sure he pays $20, Ramon.
I got you.
A dub. I got you.
I'll talk him into it. Thank you, Austin. Appreciate the call. All right. Some good stuff there I want to react to in hour 4. We'll get back to it at 9:20 on the difference between Joey Aguilar and the other QBs. I think there's some nuggets there from Austin that we learned this morning that we'll get back to. But, Ramon, there was something that nostalgic sports fans loved last night on ESPN.